So it is Arsenal 1, Manchester United nil. Yesterday dropped my right after the match reaction, so if you want to watch that, please go ahead and do so. But today I thought we would analyze the game a little bit more in depth. Again, although it was a frustrating loss, it was more frustrating because I thought Manchester United played quite well. A lot of times last season, when United would lose, it would just be same old, same old. But I think there are some positives that Manchester United fans can take from the Arsenal game looking forward to the rest of the season. So grab your espresso, grab your tea, grab your coffee. So starting with 11, Manchester United went with Bayender, a back three of Lenny Euro, Matthias de Ligt and Luke Shaw. The four was Patrick Dorgu, Casemiro, Bruno, and Diogo Dalot. And then he went with a front three of Mason Mount, Mateus Cunha, and Brian Mbumo. On the other side, Mikel Arteta lined up with David Raya, Ben White, William Saliba, Gabriel, and Calafiori as the back four. He went with a midfield three of Zubimendi, Martin Odegaard, and Declan Rice, and a front three of Bukayo Saka, Victor Gyökeres, and Gabriel Martinelli. So first, let's talk about the defensive shape against Arsenal's build-up. Ruben Amorim has shown his hand. He loves the man-to-man press. Manchester United are quite aggressive in the press. As you can see here, Mbumo ready to jump to the center half. Mason Mount marking the other center half. Mbumo also shadowing Declan Rice. Casemiro ready to make that jump. And Bruno Fernandes as well up in that space, denying any central progression. The worry here for me is that there is a larger space for Diogo Dalot to have to jump and press Calafiori. So if Arsenal can get that ball to Calafiori, whether it's a dink pass from David Raya, there is a bit of a gap for Diogo Dalot or on the opposite side, Patrick Dorgu to jump, which could then turn into an easier progression for Arsenal. But I thought throughout the 90, Manchester United did a really good job off the ball, especially when defending Arsenal's build-up. And again, you can see in this picture here, it is very much the same thing. Mateus Cunha and Mason Mount marking Gabriel and Saliba, and Mbumo marking the deepest player in Zubimendi, Declan Rice being marked by Casemiro, and then a bit of a gap and a jump for Diogo Dalot to have to make if that ball does find its way to Calafiori. But I think with the overall structure of Manchester United, they did a really good job of negating that pass. And what was happening was Arsenal were oftentimes going long, and we're going to get into that. And Manchester United very comfortable with their three center halves against the front three of Arsenal. And a lot of times the ball was just kind of coming back the other way because Matthias de Ligt was winning a lot of duels. Let's chat about Manchester United's build-up. Probably the biggest conversation when it comes to Ruben Amorim's Manchester United. And I saw online a lot of people were saying that they thought build-up was still a concern, and I respectfully disagree. Although the goal was shocking, whether it was a foul or it wasn't, I think we could have been stronger in our own box. I thought Altay actually had a really good game when it came to distribution. As you can see, he's on the ball here. And what happens is he actually pings a beautiful pass into Mason Mount. Mason Mount has the ability to bring it down, control it, and then he has numbers around him. You see Cunha, you see Bruno Fernandes, you see Patrick Dorgu, and just from one pass, Manchester United have completely bypassed Arsenal's press. Ruben Amorim isn't looking to play a bunch of passes in his own third. It's one pass over the top, two passes, and we have completely beaten the press. And Manchester United were actually seeing some success with this method of build-up in this game. Arsenal, I think there was a lack of fitness from both sides. It's the first game of the Premier League season, but you can see here that they are quite aggressive. They are ready to make the jump. And Bruno has actually taken the role of the left center half space in this build-up, where De Ligt is the roaming free man. And you can see, I believe it's Declan Rice having to either make that jump to De Ligt if Euro can bypass the press from Victor Gyökeres, or shifting over to Casemiro, who is the free man in midfield. What happens is Lenny Euro shifts it back to Altay, and Bruno does a really good job here of stepping out into that midfield and then dropping back deep, dragging Odegaard with him. And because Victor Gyökeres was the attacker marking Lenny Euro, he has now vacated that space, and they get out quite easily, and Lenny Euro has a bunch of space to attack, and we all know how comfortable he is when it comes to progressive carries. Again, this was something that Manchester United were looking to exploit. Drag Arsenal into one side of the pitch. You can see here Manchester United are trying to drag all the Arsenal players to the left side of the pitch. And with a quick combination play, they find a way to get the ball out to Brian Mbumo, which is exactly the position you want him to be in, a 1v1 situation. This is great. And you also have Diogo Dalot with the overlap. Manchester United were oftentimes finding ways to exploit the Arsenal press. Now, what was happening in the final third is a bit of a different story, but we're going to get into that. But in terms of just getting out and bypassing that press, I actually thought they did a really good job. And I actually thought that there was clear progression from what we saw last season. Again, here, Altay, very brave. Arsenal, quite aggressive in their press here. Martinelli ready to jump the wing back. Gyökeres is trying to mark out Lenny Yoro. Bukayo Saka is marking out Luke Shaw. Declan Rice man marking Casemiro. Martin Odegaard is man marking De Ligt, as we know the center half pushes into midfield. And Bruno Fernandes is the free man. It's a great ball into Bruno. And with one pass, Manchester United once again have completely bypassed the press. I think this goes to show that although there have been a lot of coaches in modern football that like to play a lot of passes, draw teams in, and then beat them, I think there are also different methods that managers can use. And Manchester United under Ruben Amorim have shown that you can be direct very quickly and have success with it. I want to talk a little bit about Matthijs de Ligt. And I've only added in 2 photos in this clip, but I thought that he was brilliant against Victor Gyökeres. A lot of people saying that he's not good enough to play for Manchester United. Respectfully, couldn't disagree more. He was really confident in these duels. Again, with the aggressive press of Manchester United, the man-to-man, it was oftentimes Luke Shaw up against Bukayo Saka, Matthijs de Ligt up against Victor Gyökeres. There was a time where Victor Gyökeres did show his strength and shoved Matthijs de Ligt off the ball, which I saw was making rounds on social media. But I thought for the majority of the, I believe it was 65 minutes that Victor Gyökeres played, Matthijs de Ligt completely dominated that 1v1 battle. Now, again, I think this is going to take some time with the new attackers. But there were a few final third decisions where, again, I think Manchester United did a really good job of bypassing Arsenal's press, getting through midfield. I thought that the Arsenal midfield was going to be a huge mismatch for the Casemiro-Bruno midfield, but I didn't actually think that was the case. Where I thought United were struggling was actually with their decisions in the final third. As you can see here, Bryan Mbeumo gets the ball. This is very early on in the game, and he sees Matheus Cunha making the run. And again, it's not a horrible decision. But the reality is, look at all the space that Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount are in. Can we work this a little bit better? Can we find a better final pass to help us create that chance? This is a situation where I'm pretty sure Ben White comes across and cleans up. But here you're in a 4v3, and I think you can make a little bit more than Manchester United got from this position. Again, and this was probably the most frustrating moment of the game for me. Manuel Ugarte gets in a ton of space, and he's done the hard work. And there you see Bryan Mbeumo making that run in behind, and you see Amad Diallo, who was, I thought, brilliant when he came on in a ton of space. Madueke is trying to track him. Now, if Ugarte picks the right pass here, instead of rushing the shot and shooting way wide, he has Bryan Mbeumo and Amad Diallo in a 2v1 against Miles Lewis-Skelly. And it's a really good position, but, you know, it's frustrating. You get into these spaces of the pitch. These are the moments that you really have to make count. And again, Ugarte shoots it wayward, and United lose possession. I spoke a little bit about the dynamics of Bryan Mbeumo and Amad Diallo playing with the right wing back and the right 10. I think this was a clear and obvious picture of where they have very similar instincts, and they want to be in that right 10 half space, if you will. And here, this is a moment where Amad Diallo should really be making that overlap. Bryan Mbeumo has committed Calafiori. Madueke is trying to track, but he's not going to catch him. If Amad Diallo makes that run in behind, he creates a 2v1 situation, and you can see there Benjamin Sesko is ready to attack the near post or the far post, whichever. What happens instead is Amad actually runs inside because he has the same instincts as a Bryan Mbeumo. Maybe he's thinking Bryan Mbeumo is going to go outside, but I think it's the right decision for Bryan Mbeumo to actually take that space that Calafiori is giving him inside. But what happens is Amad actually runs into Mbeumo, and Manchester United don't even get a shot on goal. Again, here, Manchester United chasing a goal. You can see on the screen, Benjamin Sesko has his hands up, and I made a video about the importance of Benjamin Sesko joining Manchester United, the Sesko blueprint. And when I was analyzing him, a lot of times Benjamin Sesko, you might think here he's 2v1 against Saliba and Gabriel, but he scored goals in the past where he's 2v1 against center halves. He makes really good movements in the box. He finds those quiet areas, but you got to get the ball to him. What happens here instead is Ugarte, again, he was very poor when he came on. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or what, but he decides to actually play it to Maguire, and then it ends up in Lenny Yoro's feet, and then essentially what happens is Arsenal ends up winning possession. Here you're chasing a game. You see Brian Mbeumo making that run. You see Matheus Cunha pinning, I believe that's Zubimendi. You have to get the ball into the mixer. You have to hope that you get a bounce. When you get the ball there, you're not even being pressed. You have time. Sort it out of your feet and get it into the 18. I understand that Manchester United are going to have to adapt to Benjamin Sesko and vice versa. But when you get into these areas, when you have a number 9 with the size and the athleticism that Benjamin Sesko has, you have to do your best to deliver the ball to him as often as you can. And let's talk about the Sesko importance. There were a few times where Manchester United got the balls into some really good areas. As you can see here, Diogo Dalot, wingback, and there is absolutely nobody in a red shirt occupying the 18. Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha, Bruno Fernandes. I would have really liked to see Benjamin Sesko start this match, but I also understand Ruben Amorim not starting him because he didn't play any preseason, so I get it. But here you can see a lack of a number 9 is a big miss. Again, Dorgu gets the ball. He wants to cross. Brian Mbeumo just entering the 18. Matheus Cunha, Casemiro, very much outside the 18. There's no one to go and even create any kind of cause for concern for a William Saliba, for a Gabriel. It's just very easy for Arsenal because there's no focal point. And then look what happens when you get a Sesko on the pitch. Here, this is a ball that comes out wide. It was actually one of United's best chances in the game. Benjamin Sesko is occupying both Gabriel and William Saliba. It's a great ball. I believe it was from Patrick Dorgu. And Brian Mbeumo, who is also capable of scoring goals with his head, gets a really good head on it, but it's a great save from David Raya. But just having the focal point up top in a Benjamin Sesko occupying the center halves, it frees up the possibility of the attackers around him finding those more quiet spaces. Even if he's not the one to get his head on the ball, it gives his teammates around him the opportunity to do so. And I think not just so much in the 18 instead of play in the final third, this is what Benjamin Sesko gives Manchester United. There were a lot of times where, sure, United were playing those diagonal passes from those long switches and it was working well. But a lot of times I felt like Brian Mbeumo, Mason Mount, Matheus Cunha were quite static, or they were just dropping deep into the pockets. None of them were really looking to stretch the back line of Arsenal. Again, it's not their game. You can see here Benjamin Sesko running across Arsenal's back line. He's gotten that step. Lenny Yoro, always confident in playing that pass. Again, thought he was brilliant yesterday. He's only going to get better and better. And then Benjamin Sesko actually wins this duel. And this is actually the chance that Ugarte had, where he shot miles wide. But you can just see in the limited action and the limited minutes that Benjamin Sesko had, he is going to be a very important piece to this puzzle for Manchester United. The reality for me is simple. I've seen a lot of people very doom and very gloom after Manchester United's loss to Arsenal. And I'm never going to tell anyone how to support their football club. I was very upset yesterday, but that's just because I love the sport and I love United. But I think when you have time to analyze the match, there are things that you can take that can make you optimistic about Manchester United's season. Matheus Cunha, Brian Mbeumo, I thought they were brilliant. Benjamin Sesko, you see in the limited amount of time that he's on the pitch, what he can bring. The back three, once again, brilliant. Are there still a ton of questions? Yes. Have Manchester United shown clear improvements? I also think yes. But that's it for me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are Manchester United improving? Did we deserve more from the game at Old Trafford on Sunday? And who would you like to see start against Fulham next Sunday at Craven Cottage? That is it for this one. I appreciate you all for watching. Remember to hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. The season is just starting. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint. I'll chat to y'all soon. Until next time, peace.